No Ceilings NBA continues to put out the best NBA draft big boards. Let's lock in and find out why.
You are Locked On NBA Draft with No Ceilings, your daily podcast on the future stars of the NBA, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On NBA Draft with No Ceilings. Thanks as always for making us your first listen of the day. And also, thanks for helping the Locked On Podcast Network become the #1 sports podcast network. That's huge. Really important. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Corey, well, first off, I'm Albert Ghim, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Corey Tulaba, PhD in the pick and roll and pepperoni pizza. Corey, it's been we're like right in the thick of things. Conference play is here, tons of basketball going on, a lot of stuff going on in general, and you got to kind of manage your time well. But with all that in mind, Corey, today we're covering big board stuff. And this is the first time we're doing something like this. But before we dive into these rankings and how our No Ceilings big board looks like, wanted to ask, how are you doing? You know, what's some basketball stuff you've seen recently that got you excited? What's going on?
I'm doing terrific. I mean, I went into a dark draft sicko hole. I went to see UNC Wilmington to get eyes on a wing, Nolan Hodge, when he came through Stony Brook the other day. So that was a good time. I brought my son Mason. So, you know, it was a lot of bouncing around from seat to seat to keep him entertained. At one point, we were doing Supermans along the hallways. You know, whatever you got to do to get eyes on people, you got to grind in this business. So that was the most interesting thing I've seen in the last few days.
Yeah, I mean, pressure makes diamonds. So you being at the game with your son and having to juggle all that, I mean, I'm sure that's going to pay off one day, Corey. And hopefully the player that you saw one day, he becomes an NBA wing. And you can say, I went to Stony Brook with my son to scout him. What an incredible story. I love that so much, Corey. But with that in mind, we're going to dive into, I mean, thank you, first off, to Nathan for getting us started. He covered the first 1 through 10 of our No Ceilings NBA big board. And I'm sure our listeners, you guys had a great time hearing that. But now we're going to hit the rest of it. This episode and our Friday episode, we're going to cover the rest of our big board, 11 through 30. And I'm sure for some of our listeners, you may not love our rankings. You may love our rankings. I don't know. But overall, we tried our best, and this is a composite ranking of all of our, individual big boards coming together, weighted together, and compiled. So we hope you guys enjoy this one, and please interact. Let us know where you disagree. Let us know where we did well. We'd love to hear it all. But to get us started, Corey, we're at number 11 on our big board. And just a disclaimer for our listeners out there, remember, this is not a mock draft. Okay, these are our rankings. These are how we're ranking these players. So don't get it twisted and think that we're drafting someone here at 11. These are just how we rank the players. And at number 11 on our big board, we have, you know what, Corey? I'm just going to go 11 through 14.
Yeah.
We'll cover it all, and then we'll talk about it. So at 11, we had Hans Steinbeck. At 12, we had Darius Acuff Jr. At 13, we had Braylon Mullins. And at 14, we had Nate Ament. An interesting little set here. Some names that have jumped up a little bit, a name that might have dropped a little bit from where we were preseason. A lot of interesting names. Corey, from this little quartet of names here, what's the name that kind of jumps at you the most?
Well, I love this grouping here. I mean, you could tell me that a few of the names in this grouping are actually belonging in the top 10 and might end up there on the next board. I mean, Ament being in the top, in the lottery range still, which I love, the No Ceilings crew, because these are our cumulative average rankings, right? It's not Albert and I's personal rankings. Amen. The patience that we're showing with him, I think is smart. I mean, he has been kind of objectively bad, as in from a scoring perspective. His efficiency's been really bad. He's just not knocking down shots. He looks weak outside of his ability to draw fouls and get to the free throw line. It's not been great, but he has still done some other interesting things on the court. And when you're 6'10", it helps. It allows you a little bit of leeway. I mean, look, we're going to conference play, like you said, so the SEC is not going to get any easier for him. But I think it's interesting that there has been a little bit of patience. Acuff is the other name that kind of stands out to me. I mean, he is one of these really contentious prospects. If you are deep in the scouting community, it's one of those, like, here's the line. Which side are you on? Like, are you the, it looks really cool and he's been really productive? Are you looking at some of the more advanced stats and combined with his height, and the defensive playmaking deficiencies? It's like to fade or to push. I'm a believer. I think that kid can go, and there are concerns for sure. I think both sides are making a good point, and the truth lies somewhere in the middle, probably. And so his ranking here is probably a pretty fair range. I have him a little bit higher, but ultimately, I think, when I see stuff like this, I go, you know what? This ranking makes a lot of sense. Those are probably the two guys that stand out the most from this ranking, because I think, like, Steinbach is not sexy. He's just going to continue to do what he does, just rebound the hell out of the ball and, be efficient offensively while struggling somewhat defensively. And Mullins is starting to cook a little bit, and he could be a riser undoubtedly. But he still has a lot to show too. So it's like, I don't know. This is a really fun range.
It's funny, Corey, because of the two names you picked, I went the other way. Yeah, like in my mind, I was thinking more of Hans and Braylon, just also, because
I think Jam has let us know it's Hannes.
Oh, really? Okay.
Hannes. Shout out to Jam.
Apologies to our German listeners out there. Hannes. We'll get it right now. Okay. Hannes Steinbach. And Braylon. Just kidding. Braylon Mullins. I liked those two names, Corey, just because, to your point about Hannes, he is a little boring, right? Like, there's something a little like vanilla about his game, maybe. And I think with him, it's like the reason, but that's kind of why I like him. I just like that you kind of know what you're gonna get from him every single night. And I happen to like players like that. It kind of reminds me, not that they're the same players, because the guy that I'm going to mention is a much better defender. But kind of like what Isaiah Hartenstein can be in the NBA, where it's like every night, you're going to get tough defense, you're going to get rebounding, you're going to get rim protection, offensively, rim running, a little bit of passing, nothing like too crazy or amazing, but just very consistent.
Yeah,
with Steinbach,
you're going to be an integral part of the rotation, because you can be counted on to do the thing that you're supposed to be doing night in, night out.
Right. Exactly.
That's the stark difference between Amen and him, right? Like with Nate, you don't know what you're getting night in or night out. With Hannes, you do.
Yeah. But to your point, Corey, I think that's why Nate is still in this range, though, because we don't know what we're getting night to night. But the hope is that 5 years from now, we will. And that thing is going to be awesome.
The hope,
right?
Yeah. You know what I was going to say? Like, but the highs are, we haven't seen the highs.
Right. And
which is a tough look.
Which is a nice, like, organic transition for me to Braylon Mullins, because with Mullins, the reason why, with Mullins, I actually have him 7th on my personal big board right now. And the reason why I'm still keeping him that high is because I feel like we've only seen about 65 to 70% of what he can really do. And I think some of that is coming back from an injury, finding his role, finding that chemistry, finding the vibes on the court with his teammates. He is a freshman, right? So coming in and kind of finding himself, I think is going to take some time. And then the recovery from the injury and stuff like that. I think by the time we get to the end of the season, we're going to see a different version of Braylon Jones. So like the way that I calculated things in my mind, and the reason why I kept him as high as I did is because I feel like we're just kind of scratching the surface now. And by the end of the season, we're going to kind of see him really, I say this all the time, but like really kind of spreading his wings and seeing like the full version of him. And I think that in UConn's system with the roster that they have, I think is really interesting.
Yeah, I agree. And he's had some nice moments lately. So like the flashes and the trend is upward and onward.
Yeah.
And he's, I feel like, the one guy that everybody kind of agrees with. Like if you're on the stats team, or if you're on like the aesthetic team, like if you like a beautiful jumper, like you watch that kid shoot, that you're going to be intrigued by that. And he does some really nice things that show up on the spreadsheet. So he, I feel like, is one of these guys that's going to be like kind of universally liked, But yeah, he's going to be definitely, I think, in contention to rise pretty drastically, potentially.
Yeah, and I think Corey, like it was a week ago or the previous week, our very own Tyler Metcalf did one of these like Twitter breakdowns, where he was highlighting Mullins and his like off ball movement. And the reason why that stuck out to me was because like that for me was kind of like, because Metcalf was mentioning how like it's something that he wasn't really doing enough of like early on in his time, but he's starting to show signs. And that little statement there is what's important to me, because that's exactly like my point, right? Like he's really finding himself. He's got to get comfortable. He's got to know his role. But all these things take time and reps and experience and building that chemistry with teammates and obviously coaching as well. And so I feel like he's well on his way. And the fact that he's already showing signs of developing in that and showing more of his ability to do that, because that's something we saw in his high school tape, Corey. Like, he wasn't just standing in a corner, right? So the fact that he's showing more of that and he's, starting to, put that on film, I think is exciting. And so that speaks to what we're eventually going to see with him. The A-Cuff thing, Corey, if we can really quickly, I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot. There's a lot of PG1 conversation, right, that you can find on Twitter. Usually that conversation is between A-Cuff and Flemings and Phylon, right? Those are kind of like the three, guys at the top there. Corey, for you, how would you rank those three?
So A-Cuff, Flemings, Phylon?
Correct.
Excluding Michael Brown. Because I have Michael Brown as PG1 right now. He's hurt. He's out of sight, out of mind. He hasn't. He's struggled with efficiency this year for sure. But if we're doing Flemings, A-Cuff, Phylon in that grouping, Flemings won by a hair. A-Cuff, Gap, Phylon. I think we might be on an island fading Phylon.
Yeah, I mean, I've had some people texting me on the side saying, not to sully his name, but Corey,
he stopped shooting. He's not shooting anymore.
There was a time when he was in the 40%, right? And now he's not. Okay, I'm right there with you. I really like that one. I like the last point that you made, though, how Phylon's kind of in his own tier in my mind as well. Like I know in this, like, sorry?
Behind them.
Right. Like it's, in a conversation, we mention all three names. It feels like they're kind of like close, but I actually am with you. I think Phylon's a tier below. And then you have A-Cuff and Flemings, and, both guys have had really strong freshman season Corey, to your point about A-Cuff, there are question marks about him, but also he started to answer some of the question marks that we had for him heading into the season. Right. We weren't sure what it was going to look like for him being, like an initiator for this team. And, he's taken it on and done a really good job and, flash the playmaking, flash the ability to attack the rim and do stuff like we had some questions, but the fact that he's been answering them, I think, that alone is like a really positive sign.
Yeah, for me, I would have had him above Fleming's if the defense was better. I think he offensively, I like him better than Fleming, just because I just don't believe that Fleming's going to shoot the ball. Watching him shoot in person, it was like off-putting to watch him shoot. Like it kind of looks disgusting when you break it down, and the volume is really low. And to his credit, he's made some big shots, but the percentage has come down since he was like scorching hot. I think if he was shooting at volume, it would get pretty nasty for him. Although the pull-up two stuff does look a lot more comfortable.
Right.
But it's like just not a projectable shot that I think it's going to get better. But I think he's so quick and he's able to get to the rim almost at will, and is a really good reactive passer that like it's not like a huge gap with a cuff. But I just like him better defensively with the size and the defensive playmaking and whatnot. So, but to be fair too, like Houston is a much better defensive ecosystem than Arkansas. But yeah, both guys I like are really fun in my opinion.
For sure. I think overall, Corey, and we're kind of wrapping up on this segment, but I think these four names are going to be really interesting names to watch, because there's going to be, and to be honest, anything after 10, any name after 10, there's going to be some volatility, I think.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to see how things go. Even like Ament, right, with how his season has gone. Who knows? Maybe there's a second chapter. There's another level that he can get to, and things can change. It's possible, especially because of how young these guys are. Anything's possible. But with that in mind, that was picks 11 through 14, and we'll get into some more picks right after the break. Fridays already feel different during the basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before the games tip off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. So Fridays from like 6 to 7:30 Eastern, that's become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. You open up the FanDuel app during that happy hour, you get new boosts, bonuses, surprises. It's kind of the perfect time right before the game, right before the weekend starts. It adds like this other level of excitement to the viewing experience. So, before tip off, check the FanDuel app, see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. We're also sponsored today by Wayfair. The new year is here, and it's a perfect time to reset your routine and refresh your space. If you're spending more time at home, you might as well love how it looks and feels. That's why you should turn to Wayfair. It's a one-stop shop for getting your home back on track. From bedding and mattresses to storage solutions for every room, Wayfair makes it easy to start the year fresh. Wayfair has everything you need for a full home refresh all in one place. Whether you're updating your living room, organizing your space, or upgrading your work from home setup, Wayfair's huge selection makes it easy to find exactly what works for your style and your budget. It's a new year. Maybe you want to set up your, work from home situation. Maybe you need a new chair, a new desk, a new lamp. Whatever it might be, Wayfair has such a wide variety of high quality products. It's hard for you to not find what you're looking for. So get organized, refreshed, and back on track this new year for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. All right, guys, welcome back. And thank you for making Locked On NBA Draft with No Ceilings your first listen of the day. And once again, thanks for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Now, if you haven't already, go check out our new Everydayer Club. You're going to get access to an ad-free audio feed for Locked On NBA Draft with No Ceilings, compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app. If you're interested, go to lockedonnbadraft.supercast.com or tap the link in the show notes to learn more. All right, Corey, we are back after the break. And we've got 3 exciting names that I'm actually really excited to talk about. These are 3 names that we've already done pods on this season, but exciting names nonetheless, who've had very interesting seasons, I think, all 3. I'm excited to have this conversation. So at 15, we had Thomas Houck. At 16, we had Bennett Sturts. And 17, we had Chris Sinak Jr. These are 3 very interesting names, Corey, that I think all 3 of them are kind of they've kind of had very different seasons is kind of how I would put it. But Corey, talk to us about the 3 names.
Yeah, it almost feels like one of these things is not like the other in this group. And not necessarily in a bad way either. It's just we have 2 older prospects who are a little more polished, a little more sure of who they are as players. And we have 1 young player who is raw and developing and is more of a bet on potential. For me, I have not really like faded Sturts. Like I still like Sturts a lot and am a believer in him being a really good NBA player and, potentially being a guy that you take at the back end of the lotto. I know there's questions about his ability to pressure the rim and I guess that's probably really it because he's shooting the cover off the ball still. He's still making plays for his teammates. I just don't think Iowa's a very good team. And I think he'll have he's not gonna be a major rim pressure guy at the next level, but he'll have more space, he'll have better teammates, and it'll be harder for teams to just gap him to death. Versus what he sees in college is really the only guy who, because he's not going to be given the rock as much as he is, at the NBA level. I don't think. I think at the next level he's going to be used in a lot of off-ball actions, hopefully a little bit of movement, and so I still think that if you were really into him last year, he hasn't really shown me much to change that perspective. Right. Especially since he's jumped up a level and his offense has been, almost exactly as efficient, which I think is cool. Haug, man, I go back and forth on Haug because I love so much about him. Like I really do. When I saw him in person this year, he really struggled in the first half, played much better in the second half. But just watching the way he moved, I was like, oh, he's a little more stiff than I wanted him to be. It was very line drive. But I love his passion. I love his impact on the game. That Florida team is, just a mismatch of weird, just haven't gelled. Maybe Boogie with his new haircut will get the guards going. Still like how safe guy. Think this is probably, in or around the right range for him. And then Sinek, it's weird. When I saw him in person, I was like, you know what? I'm pleasantly surprised by what I'm seeing. He hit a couple of shots early, then he was in foul trouble. He didn't play a lot, but it was like, man, shot looks smooth, knocked down a 3, knocked down a midi. My thing with him is that I feel like people are going to look at him and be like, oh, he's this raw big man who's a good rebounder, smooth shot, defensive anchor. He's Kel'el Ware. To me, he's more Bobby Portis because I just don't think he's that kind of defensive presence. He's never been a good shot blocker. And I think that is kind of the thing that people are missing with him. And I'm trying to figure out what is his defensive value. I mean, really good rebounder. So there's obviously a defensive value in that, but I just don't think he's going to get there as a rim protector. And so to me, that means he's probably going to be better suited to be a 4 if he's a starter, or he's going to be a bench big. And those are fine outcomes for him. But when Kel'el Ware is playing at his highs, he looks like a superstar. You know what I mean? And I just don't know, because the talent and the skill set was never the issue with Ware. It was just like, oh, is he going to put it together motor wise? Yeah. And I thought he did at Indiana. Obviously it was weird at Oregon. I just don't know. I love that he went to Houston. I love that he's getting coached and he's taking the coaching. It's just he's going to be one of these puzzling guys because I don't think he's so raw that but we're just missing the potential because of the rawness, But so I have him a little lower than this range, But I totally understand why this is where we ended up with him at no ceilings.
Yeah. We're a little tighter on time than I realized, so I'm gonna try to fly through this. With Hauk, for me, Corey, like I hear your point. I think for me, just where my brain is at with him is just I think his effort is overwhelming.
Yeah.
And once I made the comp in my mind of him just being taller Josh Hart, I'm like, that's going to find value in the NBA, where I feel very strongly that a team in the lottery will really like him. They're going to like his story. They're going to like his development. They're going to like the fact that, he can do a lot of different things on the floor. They're going to like his defense. I think there's just a lot more to like. And I think that'll kind of overshadow some of, like, his weaknesses, because ultimately I think they'll just look at him as like a really rock solid third, fourth option who could really contribute to a winning team one day type of situation. With Sturts, to your point, Corey, with what you said, and I also saw Metcalf, he wrote something or said something on a pod. I don't remember.
It's just too much praise for Metcalf.
A lot of praise for Metcalf. But he was talking about Sturts and his role, right? And I think this is really important, because with Sturts, I agree with both of you guys in saying that I think he's going to look better in the NBA level, just because he's not going to have the ball as much as he is right now. And I think in a smaller role, I think he'll really shine, because as you've mentioned, Corey, he's really shooting the ball well. He's a strong passer, a guy who plays with IQ over athleticism. I just feel like, he's going to find a role somewhere next to a primary. And to your point earlier, Corey, he's going to be running off motion. He'll be, a second side ball handler, can run some ball screens, create for you in a pinch. Like, there's a lot of things that he can offer offensively that I think NBA teams are going to value, hopefully. And with Sinak, yeah, I second everything that you said with him. I think he's another guy that you're going to have to give him some runway. But the Portis one is interesting, because I think some people might hear that and be like, oh, you're dissing him. But Bobby Portis is an NBA champion, and he was a huge contributor to that Bucks championship team. And he's had a very good career. He's made a lot of money. So don't think that's a diss at all.
Punch guys in the face. He's a multi-talented guy.
Right. Mirotic is not listening to this pod right now. But yeah, interesting group. And we'll wrap, Corey, with the rest of this group right after this break. Finding a doctor you actually like can feel like discovering a diamond in the rough. You want someone in network, nearby, with availability, but you also want a doctor who really listens, makes you feel comfortable, explains things clearly, and helps you walk out feeling confident about your next step. Your diamond in the rough doctor exists, and finding them is easy with ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a free app and website that helps you find and book high quality in-network doctors, so you can choose someone you truly connect with. There, you'll see real-time availability, means that you can book instantly. Appointments usually happen within 24 to 72 hours, and they can even have same-day openings. It's a great service that's available for, if you're looking for a doctor. It's a time of year you want to, see how you're doing physically. This is a great tool to use. So stop putting off those doctor's appointments. Go to ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA to find and instantly book a doctor you love today. That's ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA. I'm going to say that one more time. ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA. Thanks to ZocDoc for sponsoring this message. All right, guys, we are back, and we've got our final three of the top 20. 18, 19, and 20. I'm going to rattle them off for us here. At 18, we had Tunde Yesufu. At 19, we had Keaton Wagler. And at 20, we had Neoklis Avdalas. 3 hard names. I hope I nailed them. I'm trying my best. Hope it's not a Hannes Braylon situation, but really like the 3 names here. Corey, the Tunde one we need to have this conversation. I think this is really important to me, because I think I'm the only one who still has Tunde in his top 10.
Oh, interesting.
And I'm okay with it, because, like, for me with Tunde, it's like, I think it's really hard to do what he's doing. And I know that sounds like really simple for me to say that, but it's like, I think he's a true, I know he's a true freshman. He's putting up big stats. It's not perfect. This Baylor team is not perfect, but I still like that he's trying stuff and that he's growing in his freshman season. And yeah, maybe 8 is high for some people, but I'm just like, I like the development story. We saw the person at the Nike Hoop Summit, the type of person that he is, how much he cares. We heard a little bit about his story from, Coach Marshall Cho. Maybe there's a emotional aspect to this, but I genuinely think that for him to be a freshman on that Baylor squad, I think he's very productive. He's trying his best. He's doing a lot, and that means something to me. But wanted to kind of get your thoughts as well.
Yeah, I still like Tunde. I want to see him get into conference play and string together some consistent, honestly, efficiency. I mean, and not even so much with the scoring, just with the decision making. Because Baylor had like a soft spot in their schedule, and he was playing really well in it. Not just scoring. He had some nice games where he had like a good amount of assists without turning the ball over. So his decision making was improving. So like now that the competition is leveling up, can he get there to where he was? And if he could do that, I mean, because the guy's been efficient as an offensive player overall, 58 true shooting this year. I mean, he hits the glass, 4 steal, 2.5 block percentage. He doesn't really turn the ball over a ton, even though he doesn't, generate a ton of assists either. There's still a lot to like. He's a great athlete. Like, this is an NBA player,
right?
He's an NBA player to me. NBA strength, NBA frame, shot making, some of the stuff is, that he's flashing is really impressive. If you tell me like, oh yeah, he's a top 10 guy, like we came in the year, we're like, this is a guy who might end up being in that top 5 conversation. So like, to me, honestly, at the beginning of the year, if you were like, this is what his numbers are, I'd be like, oh yeah, we're close.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that's perfectly reasonable. He's shooting 80% from the free throw line. Like, he's now getting there 4 times a game. So, let's see what conference play does. Because I think he's got a chance to really earn himself a trip back to the lottery. But it seems like the Baylor guys, people are just out in general. Like even Cam Carr, who's having like an incredible year, has not been super high on a ton of boards, even, given his shooting proficiency, scoring, defense, wingspan. So yeah, we'll talk about him.
Yeah, for sure. Just really quickly as we wrap, I think my thing with Tunde is just I had him high coming into the season, and I'm scared to move guys out too quickly just because this is just a me thing, just because he's been productive. Like it hasn't been a nightmare. He's done a good job. To your point, he's growing. He's shown flashes of things. Even like defensively, I think he's shown good flashes too, where we might have had some concerns. But overall, like I'm kind of waiting. And I want to be patient with him because I regarded him highly heading into the season. But with that in mind, a really interesting top 20, 10 to 20 that we covered today. We really want to thank you guys for locking in with us as always. And we're going to come back on Friday with the rest of the top 30 of our big board. But until then, thanks for rocking with us. My name's Albert. He's Corey. Talk to you guys soon.